So here's another existential crisis I've been having lately. I have been toying with the idea of, do I want to be a writer? And by writer, because I already write, I mean published writer. I've been thinking about it quite a lot lately because one of the things, like, basically I hit one of those rough patches where after something really shitty happens, you just kind of like, okay, life is really short. I really just need to stop being scared to do everything. So it's how I like picked up and moved. Like I started this candle company that I still have not finished because I've been working so much overtime nursing to try to pay for the move and starting the candle company. So that kind of stinks. But I've also been really getting back into wanting to write like an epic fucking fantasy, because I feel like if you're the kind of person that's constantly reading and going, well, this is wrong and this is wrong and this could be better, then write something. And I've always enjoyed writing anyway. Like I was one of those kids that constantly, like, I still have them. I have a stack of like composition notebooks that's like half my height, which doesn't take much. I'm only 5'1", but I have a lot of them. And lately I've been kind of like getting back into wanting to write. I've kind of caught that bug again. Like I've been writing a lot of fan fiction just to get back in the practice of trying to hammer out my writing style, because the last time I wrote anything I was in high school. It was like 10 years ago. So I'm trying to get better, one, because it's easy to have a great idea, but nobody's going to read your great idea if your execution sucks, or if your execution is awesome but your plot sucks. So I'm kind of like trying to practice right now on execution, and that way I can get like my plot delivered like I wanted to. But I'm kind of, I don't know, like I'm scared basically, if I want to be honest. Like I don't know if I want to deal with like that heartache that would come with, like, I know me and I take shit personally, even though I'm also kind of very hard ass because I'm a nurse, and I'm like, it's really hard to hurt my feelings at work. But at work I'm not like exposing any of my like artistic stuff to people. It's a lot different than, you know, a patient is hurting and you're going in there and they're cussing you out and you're just like, yeah, whatever. And because you know they can't really help it, or they can help it but they're kind of being a dick because they're in pain, so we excuse it, and it's like water off a duck's back. That's cool. But it's a lot different to when you're like exposing a part of yourself and people are like, I fucking hate this book. Because I do it. And every time I do it, I feel really bad. I'm just like, but somebody worked hard on this. Hopefully they worked hard on it. But, so like, I don't know if, one, I like exposing myself to that. And then two, oh my god, this process. Like, I would just, when I was in high school and I wrote a lot, I would just write shit and post it and didn't really give a fuck. But see, now it's still on the internet and I go back and read and I'm like, oh, that's really, you're a bit dramatic. One, you're very like murderous to your character. You do a lot of shitty things to your characters, for two. And like when you write fan fiction and you write it, and unless you're like one of those people who write the whole thing and then post it chapter by chapter, you basically write as you go, which is cool. But what I'm finding is when I'm wanting to write like my actual story, my original work, is that I'm going back and editing and changing. My characters are evolving. And so when I've discovered how I want my character to actually be and what kind of personality traits they have, I'm already 15 chapters into it and I have to go back and edit like something that was very not them that I wrote in the first couple of chapters. And you can't do that when you post fanfiction. I mean, you can, but it's kind of a pain in the ass. Like, if you already posted it, people have already read it, this is what they're expecting out of this character, but in your head, you kind of want to change it. So then you're like, alright, well, I'll just write another fanfiction because I really want to write this character that this character originally had, like, my original character has developed into my head, and then before you know it, you've got like 97 fucking projects going at one time, and it's just like, fuck, this was just supposed to be writing exercise so I can get like some of the like more unrealistic, stabby, murderous, angsty plot bunnies kind of out of my head before I write my original work. Otherwise, there's something gonna be like epically horrible happening to my character in every single chapter because I can't seem to make up my mind what I want that thing to be. Like the dramatic kind of climaxy kind of a thing that happens to the characters. So I end up like trying to make them all happen, and that's what I was doing in my fanfiction. Like every chapter my character would have like something horrible happen to her, and I'm like, damn, Lauren, like calm down. So, like, it's really fun, and it kind of takes over you, and you just want to, how to say, you just kind of want to write all the time. So it's another reason, like, I hit a reading slump, and I talked about that in another video. It's like, you get the writing bug like you get the reading bug. Once you start writing, and like there are times even I'm supposed to be sleeping and something like speaks to me, or like my characters are like, just write this down, and then I'm getting up like out of my sleep when I know I need to go to work tonight, and I'm just up and typing and typing and typing, and at least if I hammer out the bad idea, I can go back, or like hammer out the idea but the execution sucks, I'll go back and work on the execution. Or you find out that like you write the characters and then your characters evolve, so you change that, and then because your characters evolve and you change that, you kind of have to change all your little mannerisms, so you end up reading your own work so many times because you have to read every little detail to catch every little detail to edit. Like if you wrote at first your character does all these things like hair flips and eye rollings, but then later on your character is a little bit more sophisticated, you don't want her to do that like pedantic childish shit, then you change that. Then you have to change the way other characters respond to them. You kind of have to work around that. And then if your character was attracted to this person for this reason, if you changed it, you've kind of got to add more stuff in there. And before you know it, you're editing it. Like I'm up to like chapter 14 in my book, my fan fiction. And every time I write a fan fiction, I have to go back like at least 6 or 7 chapters and edit little nuances that I put in there because they no longer apply to this character that I've developed. So like if I'm doing all this for fan fiction, like I'm kind of like debating with myself, do I want to do this and attempt to publish it, because I'm going to drive myself insane. And this is in fan fiction, it's a world that you're not even doing world building and stuff like that. It's only basically character development because you're writing in a world that already exists. So if you're doing this and you're writing your own book, not only am I going to end up doing this with like my character development, but now I'm going to end up doing it with the plot bunnies too, and then I'm going to end up doing it with the world building. Like, okay, well maybe this rule doesn't apply, or maybe I want this magic law to apply, or how vague do I want my world building? Do I want to be like Renee Addier and do my world building through like the clothing? And no, I don't. I don't even know why I said that. I don't like talk about clothes like that in my writing because it sounds stupid. It doesn't sound stupid, but it's just not my writing style. I'd rather do my world building through like the environment. So, but they're like, there are those debates though, like do you want to do your world building through like the language and the weaponry and the culture and developing that, or do you want to do your world building through the outside stuff? Do you want to develop religions and mythologies and histories and landmarks and buildings and businesses? And do you want to develop like magic systems, different magic laws, like physics and all this other stuff? Like do you want to bend those rules? Because then when you bend those rules, you have to either, like if you write them vague enough so that you don't write yourself into a corner later, or you have to be careful that if you do kind of at first set all these ground rules, later on when you get to like something you have to write yourself out of, like the big like whatever your main climax of the story or whatever, they're just like, okay, well I wrote myself into a corner because I really need a way out of this, but I've kind of wrote the world building and the laws and physics in a way that you can't without doing some shit that makes no sense. So you kind of, that's another thing that would make me crazy, like what kind of world building do I want to write? It's really fucking hard. So I'm like, that I like this writing, and I would like love to publicly I would love to publish something and just have it be like an epic fantasy or an epic story, or just like epic anything. But then I also know me, and I'll probably drive myself a little crazy with it. And then there's also like that debate of, do I want to write paranormal? Because I like werewolves and vampires and all that stuff. I just do. But they kind of have a stigma. Like nobody, there's nothing like epic the way most people see it about urban fantasy or paranormal romance. Like if anybody uses the word epic and it has to do with sci-fi paranormal, it's always epic fantasy. Paranormal just kind of gets stuck over to the side of like paranormal romance stuff, and nobody sees it on that same level. And that's kind of sucked when I started booktube, because I wanted to talk about my paranormal books too. Like all of mine are like up here, you can't really see them, but I have like all these J.R. Ward books and Patricia Briggs and Alona Andrews and Christine Feehan, and nobody really talks about them much, or they just kind of gloss over it. Like, yeah, this is romance book and it's whatever. It's pedestrian and pedantic and childish, and but I'm just like, but I like them. And so I kind of don't want to be like pigeonholed into that spot either. Even though like a lot of them people will read like J.R. Ward books, but a lot of it sometimes people will say it's just because of like the sex or whatever, and I'm just like, I don't want to spend all this time, this effort building this world and this magic system and whatever for these rules, and just because the characters like vampires, people just see it as just like a steamy romance and that's it. People pay more attention to the detail and the work you put into stuff when it's a fantasy. But then again, what really is the difference? Because Brandon Sanderson has some kind of stuff like in Steelheart But if another character had written it and more focus had been on the romance, then it goes from being fantasy to paranormal. And it's just like, So I think about all those things when I'm debating on what kind of work that I'm writing. And then if I want to publish it, because I don't want to be pigeonholed. If I publish something, I don't want people to say, oh, it's this. I'm like, no, it's not paranormal. It's a fantasy. It just has like paranormal characters into it, but it's still a fantasy book. And they're just like, nope, it's a paranormal romance. Like, I don't want that to happen. Like, that would frustrate the shit out of me. Because you attract a different kind of audience based on how your book is labeled. And that kind of sucks because I love my paranormal romance, but, like, the kind of discussion and whatnot that goes on about world building and stuff, like the buddy read that I did with the Wrath and the Dawn with Leanna, like, that kind of discussion, people don't really do that about paranormal romance books. They're just like, yeah, vampire sex was hot, I'm just glad the vampire didn't sparkle. And that's really it. And that kind of sucks because a lot of work goes into it. So, yeah, that's me trying to talk through whether or not, like, I want to be bold enough to try to publish it. Like, I could write something and it be just for me, but I don't also want to write something and then it just sit in my closet or on my computer or in my notebooks and then I never try, because it's like, why? If I kind of write something, I kind of want people to read it, but then again, I just want to finish it and just be proud of it. But then again, if I'm not proud of it, I know eventually I'm gonna want somebody to read it. So I don't know. I'm still debating. But yeah, that's my if I want to be an author. So yes, question for you guys: what do you feel are the differences between paranormal romance / urban fantasy? Because there's a very minute difference between those two. But between those and a work of fantasy, because in some of these paranormal romances, there is just enough fucking world building as there is in the fantasies. Like, urban fantasies is a little easier to world build because, like, it takes place in, like, the underground of a place that already exists. Like, it's Chicago, but it's, like, the underground of Chicago, where the rest of Chicago doesn't know there are vampires or whatever. And you can do world building, but you still have, like, a world that already exists. And then it turns into research and altering, then flat-out world building from scratch. So, between those, though, between that and paranormal, that is a difference for me. But between paranormal, like Dracula, would you classify Dracula as a paranormal or a fantasy? And then why or why not? Or is it both? But see, like, sometimes I feel like it's just the romance aspects of it that make people classify it as a paranormal and not a fantasy. And that's fucking stupid, because there are a lot of fantasy romances. Like the Wrath and Dawn is a romance, but it's a fantasy. Now, if, you know, the character had been a fucking vampire, does that just make it a paranormal and not a fantasy, even though there's, like, all this world building and all this other crazy stuff? And there are fantasy works, like, by, like, not Scott Orson Card or necessarily, like, Brandon Sanderson, where they have these characters that are werewolves and shifters and vampires and unicorns and whatever. So why is it fantasy over here and classified as paranormal over here? What's the difference? And that's kind of like a debate that I'm having with myself, and it's making me not want to publish my book, because I don't want anybody to pigeonhole me into that corner. Because you get stereotyped once they see you're like a paranormal author. They can just kind of see it as like those little, like, paperback, like, pocketbook kind of a thing. It's like historical romance author. Like, nobody expects it to be really epic. Nobody considers it epic. They just consider it like a trite romance story to read, and that's it. And that kind of fucking sucks. So yeah, let me know what your thoughts are on all of that. It turned into, like, just supposed to be me discussing whether or not I want to be a published writer, and look what happened. I just went off on a tangent rage kind of, like, it all encompasses, like, these are the things I think about when I think about whether or not I want to publish my own work. So yeah, let me know what you think about that, because it's not a discussion video. Nobody, like, talks back. It's just me talking to myself. So comment. I really do like, by the way, talking to you guys in the comments. It's fucking awesome. But yeah, that is what I got for today. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you like it, and subscribe, because that's always cool. And comment, more so than anything. Comment, like, first. Like, let me know what you thought. Let me know what you think about these issues. Like, I need, like, to back and forth on these. You dig? So yeah, but that's all I got. I will see you guys later. Thanks for watching. Bye.